I wonder why nobody don't like me. Or is it a fact that I'm ugly? I wonder why nobody don't like me. Or is it a fact that I'm ugly?
We are back for part 2 of this week's episode with Fay Ludes. I don't know why I sound like that, but yes, it is Wednesday now. Hopefully you all are making it through easily to the middle of the week, and, don't have much to talk about here up top, and I'm sure you are absolutely at the edge of your seat with anticipation for how the rest of this episode goes. So let's go ahead and get into this beautiful conversation about road travel with Fay Ludes. We are back, though. My bladder is empty, and we are ready to go. But with each episode, I do like to pick my guests' brains, see what the big themes in their life are right now, what they're getting into, the rabbit holes that they're falling down. And so I ask each of my guests to bring along a topic, something to spur the conversation that means something to them during this particular time. And you, being somebody that is on an immense USA road trip, had the topic of road travel, which is super exciting to me.
Yeah.
I'm an American. I love the road. I love a road trip. Like it is something so profoundly and spiritually, yes, like American. So tell me, what of your road trips, which has been like the most memorable, the most wild, throughout the United States?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. I know that I've had some very chaotic road trips over the years. I'm trying to think if there's been some good stories on this one already, and it's been less than a month.
Right. Willing to share any ones that particularly stick out? I'm
trying to think if there was a previous road trip to this one that I'm like, oh, that was a shit show. There was a good one that I really enjoyed. So about 10 years ago, I was about to move to Vienna, Austria. I guess it's more than that now. Something like that. And I was also in the middle of writing a book. I was a blogger at the time.
We're going to get into that. Hold on. We're going to circle back. We're going to circle back.
So I was writing a book and trying to move overseas at the same time. It was really fucking stressful. And I found out that Pee Wee Herman was doing a black box theater show where he was redoing Pee Wee's Playhouse in a black box theater.
Oh, shit.
Now, I lived in San Francisco at the time. This performance was in LA. That's 6.5 hours or so.
Yeah, you can do that easy peasy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the timing was terrible because it was like, here I am in the midst of all this chaos, packing up my life and all of this. But my best friend at the time and I said, fuck it, yeah, I'm gonna go. Now it sold out so quickly that they ended up moving it from a black box theater to Nokia theater
to something huge, of course.
Yes. And all the people who had the initial tickets, we got to do a Q&A with Paul Rubens. So that was worth it.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
But yeah, it was funny because we had like front row seats to the original one or like really close up. And then all of a sudden we didn't. And we were like, what the fuck? And
Craziness.
It was actually the show that turned into his Broadway show.
No way.
Yeah.
Holy
yeah.
crap.
So I was one of the first people who got to see that show before it hit Broadway. And that road trip was fun, although I was literally writing my book on a T-Mobile Sidekick as we were driving.
Horrifying. That's crazy.
I was like in the back seat trying to just churn out words. We're like driving back and forth. I was like, I have a deadline. I have to finish this.
At least it's a great drive. I have to say, like, I as much as I want to like really explore and cover the corners of the US that I haven't yet, something about driving the West Coast is always like this spiritual pilgrimage. Like it is one of the most And it's just one of the most beautiful things that you can do for 6 hours at a time, like within the U.S.
Oh my God, the 101, when you like turn that corner and you just see the ocean in like Ventura, and it's literally glitter, not even Ventura, in like Santa Barbara, and it's like literally glittering, and you're like, why does the water look like it's covered in glitter? This is so beautiful.
It's like, I always think when I'm out there, I'm like, could you imagine being like the Lewis and Clark, the explorers of those generations, and being like, oh, not only did we find California, we found like one of the most unbelievably gorgeous spots in the world. And it's the whole damn coast. Like, truly, when I drove from Seattle down to Tijuana, like my trip ended up being like a whole week longer than it was intended to, because I was like, I need to spend an extra day here. I need to spend 6 hours there.
Totally.
Have you ever had a deeply like spiritual experience then on a drive? Because it's like, I feel like almost at least once per trip, every time I go on a road trip, something like profound or spiritual happens to me that like inspires the rest of it. Like, for example, going down the West Coast, I made a point to stop at Jack London State Park, which is like his big ol' estate where he like has an unfinished house and his grave, and it's like a hike to his grave and everything. Like that to me was like touching on many, many levels. Have you had a similar experience while traveling by road? I find it to be like this cool, almost literary thing.
I find that like I'm a very chaotic person.
Right.
And I find that there are points on road trips where it gives me space to think, and I have moments of my life on road trips where I feel very content. Right. And that's not something that I feel in the day-to-day rat race of my life. You know, I've been hustling as a job. I've just hustled a million different gigs for like decades now. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, even tonight when the sun was setting as I was driving to the Tractor Supply, and like the sky,
a spiritual
was,
place, that is church for many people.
True. But the sky was fucking gorgeous, you know, pinks and yellows and like, you know, like clouds and trails through it. And I try to take a picture of it, but you can't even fucking capture the beauty of that. Right. And so, you know, one thing I really like about road trips is getting to like take in the beauty of a place that you are not from. Right. Or even that you are from, and just find new appreciation for nature, especially if you're a city person.
Yeah, I think that is the profound thing about road travel, is that like you said with the sunset, is like you can take as many pictures as you want, but it's like it's a full sensory experience that you like
absolutely
that you cannot really pass on or share with anybody else unless you're like, hey, let's get in the car and do this again, you know. And then even then it's its own unique thing.
For sure. No, totally. I mean, I remember like there was a point in my life where if I needed to calm down, like if I was getting a massage and they're like, picture yourself somewhere, or like, you know, you have to get out of your head, because I don't get out of my head. That's not a thing.
Tell me about it. It's a rare occasion.
Yeah. So like when I was trying to do yoga or like get a massage and like slow my brain down, there are times where the only thing that could really calm me down was I used to visualize this walk I took in Kyoto, Japan, walking to Kinkakuji and seeing the Golden Temple for the first time. And that was one of the only things that could like stop me, because I could literally like close my eyes and put myself there, right, and like smell it and feel it and be
there are very few memories that I have that are so sensory and so detailed that more than ones that I have experienced like while traveling, while going out and about. Like even I spent a good 6 to 8 months living in Seattle, and it wasn't even traveling so much, because I felt like at some point I would move in and like set roots, and I eventually didn't. Yeah. But because I was like so so out. I mean, out of place isn't the right phrase, but I was so out of my own place there, and that every experience, whether it was like walking to work or whatever, was exploratory. It's like I have such profound and detailed memories of every aspect of that, especially like geographically.
I also, something about Seattle is very like that too. It's green, but it's rainy. It's very melancholy, but it's still very beautiful.
Well, I could talk about Seattle. I feel like one day when I have a guest from there, I will make the topic of an entire episode Seattle, because it's like I could go on forever. But like, yeah, there is a vibe truly there. And then I feel like in the whole Pacific Northwest, like when you're exploring Oregon and Washington, like there is this sort of peace, or I don't even know if peace is the right word, but there is almost a sense of like importance or spiritual happening or something going on. As
much as I'm loving being in the South, mainly for like the warmer temperatures, and let's be honest, not a lot of COVID closures. Like I have had shows canceled for sure, but not nearly as many as if I had just headed straight to the West Coast, you know?
Right. Of course.
Because people are more responsible on the West Coast. Sorry.
Yes. It's frankly true. On the whole,
it's
yes.
It's true. I think anyone in the South would admit that. I mean, you know, I can't tell you how many stores I go into here and people are not wearing masks, and then they're trying to pet my dog and get in my face, and I'm like,
tell me about it. I did have an experience the last time I like drove seriously during quarantine. I went out to like the middle of nowhere, Colorado, in the middle of the plains to go see this like painted desert area, and I went in. I was going to go get breakfast from this restaurant, and there was a poster outside that basically said, if you are not wearing a mask, we will assume that you have a medical or personal reason to not be wearing it. And I walked inside, and it literally was just like that poster was just an excuse for none of their patrons or employees to wear a mask, period.
I went to the Murray, Kentucky Walmart last night, and it was an adventure.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine. Like, being in a grocery store is already scary, and then being, like, the only person with a mask on, it's like you versus the world.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, the Pacific Northwest, my brother moved to Portland, and I can't wait to get over on that side and travel over there. But, you know, that's probably not going to be until... I don't know.
Well, it's going to take a while.
Fall.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's zoom out. Let's talk about like the scope of this trip, because like I was really excited to talk about it because I personally like I've had loose plans. It's been a dream of mine to like get in drag and travel the country and be able to like, and I like my dream for it is like a larger sort of project where I'm able to like interview and speak to different queer communities throughout. Although I guess they kind of already did that with that HBO show with Eureka O'Hara and Bob the Drag Queen.
Yeah.
But I in that process, I mapped out a really, really detailed route for all 49 states that you can get to by driving, and found that it would take like a minimum of 2 years to do the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
What is your route looking like? What is your time frame looking like? Are you trying to do all 50 states? Kind of tell me about that.
No, I'm not trying to do all 50 states.
Okay.
Like, I don't really need to do drag in New Mexico. I don't really need to do drag in Idaho. I don't, like... Definitely not in
Idaho.
Yeah, there's spots that So, here's kind of what it looks like. Because of COVID, it is not planned super far in advance. Because
you can't.
This world is ever changing right now, and you just really can't. So, I mean, I've already had 5 shows canceled in the first month, and then had to like scramble and reroute myself. So the first trip I did was I went up to Wisconsin. I worked in Milwaukee and Madison, and then I came back to Chicago and continued to pack. That was my little starter. Like,
lovely.
Like, what's it like to be in an RV? And I quickly learned that if you do not have water in your rig because it's too cold out and the pipes will freeze, you will not have fun if you have to shit into a Walmart bag.
Oh no! Oh, no! Okay,
it's fine.
I have to offer my deepest condolences to you and your whole That's
Look,
that is.
you can set it in the toilet, so you don't have to. It is what
I
it
guess
is.
so. Okay, you know
there's
what?
a lot of awkward things like that happen on the road. A lot.
No, I understand. The places that I have peed, I think I have committed a few crimes. Like,
Oh yeah, me too.
just like being on the road and having to